Today we're going to talk about finding a job online. I was working on a freelance basis, but I was also teaching English during COVID times when I was working for a language school. So I've seen the absolutely amazing benefits of teaching English remotely. And I'm really excited today to explore that, especially with my colleague here, Shauna, as well.
My name is Shauna. I work here in the TEFL Institute and I'm an enrollment advisor. As well as Jess, I have worked online for a couple of different companies. I was living in South America for a while teaching there, so I also have experience in it. So hopefully we can give you all the advice and information that you need to get started with your TEFL journey.
All right, guys, so today we are going to cover the following topics. So firstly, what is teaching English online? What are the requirements to teach English online? What are the advantages of teaching English remotely or on your laptop? And also, what are the types of teaching online jobs? So we're going to cover the three primary teaching English online jobs, which is contract-based, freelance basis, and also starting your own business. And then finally, we're going to touch on where to find an online teaching job and what services and training we can provide for you to get you started. At the very end, we're going to have a Q&A session with myself and Shauna to take any questions you have. Feel free to pop your questions into the chat box throughout the webinar. But we will have some time dedicated at the end to take your questions too. Okay, what is the definition of teaching English online? Teaching English online is teaching to English learners at any level over the internet through a video platform. Now, typically you would have your computer, your laptop, but now it has really expanded on any device you can teach English. Many websites you could teach through your tablet or even your mobile phone, conversational English, on a phone call. So there's so many options that you can start with as well. When it comes to teaching English online, it can be done individually, one-to-one, private lessons, or it can be done in group classes as well. Typically, you wouldn't have, more than maybe 10. When it comes to online, it is easier to manage, but it's also a great option for teaching as well. It's a very successful industry, especially in the last 3 years. As you can imagine, during the COVID pandemic, the demand for teaching English online and getting lessons online has absolutely skyrocketed, which is great for us as TEFL students and graduates. And people have really decided, okay, look, I'm going to start up my own business instead of going back to the office. So this is really prime time to get into teaching English online. So guys, I'm just going to brief over the requirements of teaching English online. There is a common myth that you need to have a bachelor's degree to teach online. This is not true. There's many companies that take teachers who are not qualified, at any level with a college or university. There is particular websites that may ask for it. They may have a higher criteria, but there is still plenty of options. Especially if you are a non-native English speaker, there's also options for you available. But typically they will ask that you are a fluent speaker, that you're very confident to teach English and English grammar as well. Another important requirement is to have your TEFL certification. They will usually ask for a minimum of 120 hours minimum to teach online. So our 120-hour TEFL course is a perfect place to start. When it comes to your setup, so, I guess you want to start with a good headset, good earphones, so that you can hear your students and your microphone is also very clear for them to understand you. Of course, you need a device, you need a laptop, tablet, as I said, web camera. Usually laptops will have a web camera. You can also buy one if you want a higher quality video too. And of course, very important is a stable internet connection. So if you don't have this at home, there is, options to go to co-working spaces or even cafes, might have a great internet connection as long as the noise disruption is low. I think though, when it comes to teaching English online full-time, it's definitely worth investing in good good tech, good headset and everything. It really does pay off in the long run. And of course, other traits such as a really good energy, enthusiasm, that really translate over camera as well, because that's just something you have to consider if you are even transitioning from the classroom to online, that you need to have even extra energy on camera to keep them motivated throughout the lesson. And key there as well is patience. So not only when it comes to teaching English, but also your student mightn't be very techy, or it might be new to them. So just having that patience as well for this kind of job is important too. Okay, I'm just going to hand you over to Shauna there now, who's going to talk about the advantages.
Hi guys, so basically we're just going to take a quick look at the advantages. Obviously, probably the main one of working online is the flexibility to it. Whether you do work for a company or freelance, you do have the opportunity to choose your own hours. You can work from anywhere in the world. So as long as you have a stable internet connection, you have your headset and your laptop or your device, you can set up and go, whether that's in New Zealand or South America. So wherever you'd like to go, you can travel with it. People also found it fantastic to supplement their income while they're traveling. So if they do decide to take off for a couple of months, they're still earning a little bit of money, and they're not going into their savings. And a lot of people do it kind of, again, to supplement, even if they are working in schools, as long as it's okay with their employer, they can do a little bit in the evenings. So I think those are probably the main advantages of it. I think the most important one, or the most appealing one for most people, is the fact that you set your own schedule. And if you're not traveling, you can work from the comfort of your own home when you want to, and when you need to. And, I think one of the other great things I found myself from it is that you can kind of make an impact into people's lives, when you get a great insight into people's cultures. And you get to travel without going anywhere, because people are telling you about the food that they're eating and the things that they do in their countries. And it's really, really appealing in that sense. A lot of people like to practice their English just talking and having conversations about the world. So in that sense, it does open doors, not just for your students, but for yourself as well, to kind of learn a few new things on that. So basically, they would be the main advantages of it, the reasons why people go for teaching online rather than in a school. And then basically we can have a look at now that there's three main ways that you can start working online. So the first one would be what I would have done myself when I was working, and that would be as an employee for a school. So it's a contract. And I would recommend this for somebody maybe who's starting out, because when you work for a school online, basically you'll have to try to find the schools that are hiring. You put in your application, and if you get hired, you'd have an interview. And once you're successful, you would do some demo classes. These are really, really good for you to get your experience and get feedback on your teaching, because it can be very daunting to start out online when you're, if you're new to it. So usually what they will do is give you 2 or 3 demo classes with some of their specific students. You'll get feedback on that then, on what you need to improve on, maybe they'd say you need to work more on the pronunciation with the students. The student needs to work on a specific part. So it's a really good way to kind of build your confidence in the beginning. And with these kind of schools, you'd be working as a contractor, and they would provide you with the students and the material that you teach. Okay, so again, in the beginning, it is a good way to get started, because it gives you that experience. So you're not worried about your lesson plans or anything like that. Some of them vary then in how they would give you your classes. So for example, one company that I would have worked for online would send you the classes kind of throughout the day and say, there's a class at 8 p.m. tonight, do you want to take it? And you accept it or you don't. Other companies have a more of a structured way of getting your classes. So you fill in what your availability would be. You might say, okay, guys, I'm going to work today from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. and they'll fill your classes. You log in, your students are waiting for you, and you go straight through them. So it can be as structured or as flexible as you like. Even with the more structured side of things, you can still put your own flexibility into it. So you don't have to be tied down to a 9 to 5. You can choose what hours you will work. Sometimes with these kind of companies, there's some disadvantages as well. They can pay a little less, you know. So for example, maybe starting out roughly, I would have been getting the least that I've ever got per hour would be $10. Okay. That is their minimum. But a lot of them will add on some bonuses for example, if you take more than 20 classes a week, you might get an extra $2 per hour. If you have a 5-star rating from your students, you might get an extra $2 per hour. So you can always bring it up. And then you would be starting between $10 and $15 per hour for that. Usually they have bands then. The longer that you work for them, the more pay that you can make, and the more income you can get, the more classes you can take. So it's like any job, you know, you start off on a little bit less. Once you build up working with the company, your experience, once they know what you're capable of, then you can get anything up to maybe $18 an hour. I would have been getting. Now that is kind of the real higher level for these kind of companies. I was working for them for almost 2 years to get to that point. So it's not every company that would give you that amount. But it is, as I said, it's a good way to get started. One of the downsides, again, is a lot of these companies would require somebody with a university degree and some level of experience before going. So what I personally did in order to get the experience was did some private lessons with people that I knew, you know, through word of mouth. And you could even do a little bit of volunteering. I know that we have, particularly in Ireland, we have a lot of foreign nationals living here at the moment. So you could do those kind of small things, and all of that would build up your experience. We also have a virtual day course that I found very helpful that I did some teaching practice on. And for teaching online, I found that fantastic to see how Michelle taught the class and controlled it for a group of people. And that really helped me then with getting started with the confidence. But without rambling on too much, as I said, I think it's good for you if you kind of want a little bit of flexibility. If you don't want to be spending too much extra time worrying about your lesson plans or finding your students, then it is the route for you. It's definitely more suitable for people as well who are traveling, because you don't want to spend your time doing your lesson plans and all that. You want to log on and take your class and log off and go back to the beach if that's what you're doing. So it does have the freedom in that side of things. And then some of these companies are kind of, there's VIP Kid. I worked for Open English, which is a big one in South America. I'll put a few of those into the chat for you guys. So that basically would be the company side of things that you could work for. I'm going to just pass you back to Jess now, she did a bit of freelancing. So that would be a little bit different to me. So she's going to give you another perspective on it now.
Yeah, no, I think that was great. Even just to add on to what you're saying about very little lesson prep. I just think that's a huge pro. You know, if you are traveling as well, you don't want to spend hours doing that, and can definitely go down a rabbit hole of lesson planning.
Yes,
it can
be intimidating.
Just a reminder there, guys, as well, if you want to pop in your questions into the chat box, we want to make this webinar as interactive as possible. So feel free to disrupt us if you want to shout it out, or you can pop it in the chat box there. I see a question from Emily. So the companies we could work for are based worldwide. Yeah, absolutely. The company can be based anywhere, but really it's, you know, the world is your oyster when it comes to teaching English online. You can sign up to most companies, but just double check what pass or nationalities they accept as well. But no, you could have a mix of companies from different countries as well who have virtual offices. Okay, And we have a question there from Chris. How does it work with paying taxes? I don't know, did you pay taxes or how did that work for you, Shauna? Do you have any experience with that?
For me, I was living in Brazil, so I was working for the two companies. Both of them were based in the United States. So with that company, I had to sign an agreement to say that I wasn't living in the United States, so I wouldn't be paying tax there. They weren't paying tax for me there. And then basically it was up to me to go, it's almost self-employment because you're working as a contractor. Mm-hmm. So whatever country you were in, that's up to you then to register your income and pay your tax there through that country. So it can be a little bit complicated, but what I would say, what I did was, I went to the local, when I was getting my visa sorted, I asked them about it basically once I had my visa for living there, and a lot of people are really, really helpful no matter where you are in the world, and they'll guide you and help you through that on how to do it,
Fantastic. So another question there. Are there any job placement companies you recommend specifically for Spain? I'm not sure if you mean teaching in a school, Brandy, or online. But I guess if you are looking at teaching online, particularly to European students or Spanish students, I actually think what I'm going to discuss now, the freelance, is perfect for that as well, for that European base. Another question there, does Open English require experience? I love South America. Oh, and spent time there, so would love to work with people from there. Okay, in terms of Open English, that website, I wouldn't be too sure, Dee, but I know our Shauna worked in South America before, and also absolutely loved it.
With regards to Open English, I think they do say a minimum of 1 year, but I would also say if you've lived in South America, if you have a little bit of Spanish, they really love native speakers who can speak another language. That's because a lot of the students there really want to learn with native speakers. So I would definitely put in your application and see how you go, even if you have very little or no experience. I know that they are very open to native speakers and they're really, really interested in that.
Perfect, thanks, Shauna. Another great, we're getting loads of questions, fantastic. Are there any companies in particular you would recommend for new teachers, or certain things to look for in a company when searching? Yeah, perfect, Leo. We're actually going to get to that just in one moment if you hang tight. And also we have a question there on what course is suited for teaching English online. We're going to get to that as well. Shauna's going to tell us all about the courses we have to offer. Are there opportunities for teaching English online with no degree and no experience? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to share some links with you guys as well throughout this webinar. Perfect. And are there any companies you would recommend in France for online teaching, as I speak French? That's really interesting, actually. Yeah, I think, really the methodology of TEFL is to try and not use, their first language of your student. But it's a huge advantage if you do have their language as well to help them with translation or anything like that. I think, as I discuss more about the freelance, the tutoring as well, that's really, you have a lot of European students there, and you will definitely find some French students as well. Okay, I'm just going to get to, guys, the freelance section, as I might answer some of your questions and we'll get back to them. So when it comes to freelance basis, so I did this myself just to supplement my income while I was also working for a language school, and it was super flexible. I absolutely loved it. It's basically teaching on a marketing platform. I always compare it to Facebook. So you create your own profile. You might put a photo, a video of yourself, your credentials, your qualifications, a bit about yourself, your personality, and then students will message you or send you a request for a lesson. So it is, similar to running your own teaching business, but you're using their platform, and they may also take a cut of your pay rate as commission as well. So that's what you're really paying for. You're paying for that marketing platform, and also that's their student base as well. So the advantages of going freelance or online tutoring is you can choose your own students. So as we discussed there, when it comes to European, Spanish, French, you can advertise on your profile that, you know, my specialism is teaching English to French people, French students, for example. You can absolutely say this is perfect. And you can outline what languages you speak and also what is your niche. So maybe you want to specialize in business English, in IELTS prep, maybe just young learners. So there's a huge advantage there to kind of outline that in your profile as well. When it comes to lessons, you can create your own lessons. So although we did discuss about the amount of lesson prep, but when I was teaching, I really enjoyed creating my own lessons. If you are a very creative person, it is very satisfying, and I think it can almost be easier sometimes to have your own material and teach it yourself. So you do have that freedom that you don't have to follow a set curriculum. But I know a lot of freelance platforms now do provide extra materials for their teachers. And of course, the big pro is that you can set your own pay rate. So, it really depends on how much effort you want to put into your lessons. That's what I usually advise people who ask me, what should I charge? If you are just looking at teaching conversational English for an hour or so, that will probably be at a lower pay rate. But if you want to specialize into grammar, business English, teaching corporates, you could definitely raise up the price then as well. Another massive advantage is more autonomy. So you can work on your own schedule, your own hours. It is very flexible. I think the only thing to keep in mind is time zones. So if you are, teaching particular students in some countries, just to be wary of that as well. But when it comes to these freelance platforms, you can work as little or as many hours as you like. It's also much easier to find students as well. So if you were starting up your own business from scratch, it would take more work on the marketing side. But if you go through that freelance platform, they will bring in the students for you, which is great. Also, I think a great advantage is the requirements are usually minimal, as opposed to what Shauna was discussing there. There may be a set criteria for contract work, but when it comes to freelance or tutoring websites, they may only ask that you submit a video as part of the approval process. So usually the application process is very quick. So when it comes to the disadvantages, so income and hours is not always guaranteed. I think when it comes to this, it's really the more time you put into your profile and into your lessons and the amount of care into your students, the more money you'll probably make. So, there is no guarantee, but I do think if you really work hard at it, there will be a nice flow of students and hours built up as well. So just initially, it can take, you have that at the start trying to get those students in. It can take a bit of time, but I do definitely recommend when you do have students, ask them to write reviews on you as well. If other students see that you have 5-star reviews, you're definitely going to get a lot more requests as well. Another disadvantage there could be the competition with other teachers. So usually they'll see a list of teachers to choose from, and usually the highly rated ones would be at the top. So you are competing with that at times, but I never think that it is very scarce when it comes to students, because if you do have that fluent, confident level of English, you shouldn't have a problem. And as I said previously before, they can take a cut of commission as well. But I do think some platforms actually reduce this the more lessons that you take on as well. So I'm just going to share there, guys, some links to some examples of freelance platforms as well. And I can see there now we have some questions coming in. So if you can just see there, guys, the links to our recommendations for freelance platforms. And if you have any questions, you can pop them into the chat box there. Just going to scroll back there.
I can just see there's a few questions regarding payment with bank accounts and that kind of thing. So any company that I have ever worked for online, it's through PayPal. So you're never giving your account details or anything like that to anyone. It's all through PayPal. It goes directly in whatever day they have agreed to pay you. It's transferred from them, and then you can put it into your own bank account. And because you could be anywhere in the world, basically, so there could be issues with transferring. It's been PayPal that I have worked with those kind of things.
Yeah, I think it is usually those. It could be Revolut now or anything like that. Yeah, it's usually very, very safe. Absolutely. Just a quick look. Any other questions?
There's one here about the with the higher qualifications, master's, PhD. It would really depend. Like if you were working on Preply or one of the freelance ones, and you had an experience in a specific field, and you were teaching English about that specific field, then yes, of course, it would influence it. But if the main qualification that you need to teach English would be your TEFL qualification, to teach English as a foreign language. So for the companies, your master's degree would definitely be a bonus, but it wouldn't necessarily mean that you would get a higher rate of pay unless it was specifically geared towards teaching or teaching English.
Okay. I see a question there from Bonita Maria. My experience is 4 years ago. What do you recommend to get started again? Yeah, I know. I'd say 4 years feels like 40 years. It definitely, when you don't practice it every day. Yeah, do you know, I think even just what Shauna was touching on there about, you know, doing our courses, doing refresher courses, I think they're absolutely a fantastic option. Even our specialist courses are great for that too. Just to kind of, you know, go through the material again, and it might just kind of all come back to you again. But, you know, take it easy. If you do want to teach English online, maybe as Shauna said, you could volunteer a bit, just ease yourself into it again, or do it with maybe any referrals or friends or anything like that. Or even start with conversational English if you're not too confident with the grammar, if it's a bit rusty. That would be my advice anyway.
I just had a question there.
Yeah.
Is there opportunities like to work with different age groups? You know what I mean? Like rather, if you prefer to work with like younger kids teaching English or like older adults teaching English, like is there companies like that differ with age groups and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So actually, the links there Shauna shared previously, I'll just put them in there again for you there, Emily. So these examples, for example, the contracts, if you're looking at VIP KID or Wales English, this would cater to very young learners. So it'd be a very interactive experience, you know, using videos and flashcards and puppets and everything. It's really great fun. But if it's not for you, you can also target adults as well, which I was discussing there on the freelance platforms. It's actually very popular because they're looking for something more flexible in terms of lessons. So as I had up there, Preply and Cambly, you'd have corporates, you know, you'd have those looking for exam preparation, anything like that. So yes, any age at all, Emily. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
There was a question there from Ian about the IELTS preparation. So just to touch on what Jess was saying there about IELTS is the International English Level Test, and non-native speakers usually have to take this test if they're going for visas or jobs in an English-speaking country. And then you could give specific classes preparing people for this test, because for a lot of people it's a huge undertaking for them. They want to get the best score they can. So a lot of English teachers would specialize in this in order to help them prepare for this test.
Perfect. Okay, just going to keep scrolling down there. So we have a question, where can I volunteer to get experience in teaching online? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of teaching online, you could definitely go to the jobs boards as well. If they have any possibly refugee charities are looking for teachers to volunteer. Teaching online, if there's maybe tutoring services for kids as well, that's also a possibility, or even just advertise yourself on, you know, Facebook groups saying that, look, I'm giving free lessons in English as well, and that usually attracts a good few students as well.
Just to touch on there, the IELTS training course, we have a 30-hour specialist course for IELTS preparation. So that is available to ourselves. And I do think with online as well, for both the freelance and the companies, it is really, really good to have a specific a niche that you're going to teach, whether it's business or IELTS or that kind of thing, because a lot of students are looking for a specific thing. And, with the freelance, there can be a lot of teachers on the platform. So you want something that makes you stand out and gives you the specific students that you want. So I would recommend, I'm not sure if Jessica would, but I would recommend having something a little bit more niche just for those kind of things. I think sometimes it may be necessary.
Absolutely. No, I think if you are, specializing, it does give you an advantage and you can charge that bit extra. Absolutely. So guys, I'm just going to quickly touch on owning your own business and we'll head right back to the questions then. So as we discussed, we talked about contract work, freelance. Thirdly, then, is owning your own business. So in this option, you have full control over your professional life, which is a huge advantage. You have complete autonomy. You are your own boss, which is a massive advantage. And, as I discussed with the freelance before, they sometimes take commission. If you're working for yourself, you don't have to pay this commission. So your income is unlimited. It's a really, endless earning potential, which is fantastic. The downsides of this is the startup costs. You do have to handle payment, which can be tricky. Also invoicing and possibly doing up contracts with your students as well. So this is the downside. If you are going with websites already established, you don't have to do any of the payment or following up with that. And then another possible downside is a bigger risk of income not being guaranteed. But I think, if you do put the work in and really highlight, your TEFL qualifications and, what you can bring, and even specializing and having a niche, what attracts you as a teacher, I do think you'll see the money come in, most definitely. I actually had a webinar recently with a company who our Kate, who runs the tutor sessions, and she set up her own teaching English online business, which is now very successful. So I'm just going to share the webinar on that if you want to have a watch back at it, and if you are interested in starting your own business teaching online. Okay. So finally then, guys, I'm just going to go through where to look for a teaching English online job. So we have our own jobs board. If you are a student with us, if you're enrolled in one of our courses, you have full access to our jobs board, so you can apply with your CV. So we have a range of options, not only online, but also jobs abroad. So I'm just going to share the link to our jobs board there. And we do have a couple of other recommendations, some more websites that you can access. But if you do have, if you are TEFL qualified with us, you'll have full access to the TEFL jobs board, whereas some providers, you'll have to enroll in their course to access it. But there should be some good options for you there, guys. Even looking at LinkedIn, I have in there, and also Facebook groups, as I said, is a really great place to look for jobs as well online. Okay, yeah.
So basically with the looking for jobs online, it's like any other job search, you have to have your CV. You're always going to need a video for any platform that you do. So I would recommend getting your video done early. You can have a look even on YouTube. There would be plenty of videos, like a demo video. Any contractor companies, usually on Preply, you would need to do it. Make sure your video is good. Put the time into it, because if you start looking for jobs, you'll be sending it along with your CV to everybody. And it's worth kind of taking your time, making sure that it shows the potential you have. You're expressing yourself in what you're specializing in, and your qualification and all of that, and it's definitely something that you need to spend a little bit of time on. And it can be a bit of a shock for people who maybe complete the course and then they say, oh, I have to do a video for this job application for teaching English as a foreign language. I would say 95% of the time you will have to provide a video introducing yourself, talking about your qualification, and talking about maybe your experience or that kind of thing. Companies do need it. I don't know if it's the same for Jess and her experience, but anyone I've ever applied to request a video.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it gives the employer, you know, their impression of you, and yeah, don't be nervous. It's totally normal. Absolutely. And, you know, if you are on a job hunt, we do have a recruitment service. You can book a call with myself as well, the recruitment advisor. If you've just finished your TEFL course and you want to get started teaching abroad or online, and need any help with that, even your CV or video, anything like that, you can book a call with myself. Yeah, so Shauna, could you just take us through, I guess, how to get started in terms of getting qualified and what services we can offer?
So basically, for teaching English online, the minimum requirement is 120 hours. Okay, so that's our 120 hour, it's a fast track course. And once you have that, that's the minimum to go. We also have our 180 hour level 5 course, so it's a bit of a higher level qualification. And we would suggest that for people who are maybe looking to travel and teach in schools rather than specifically online. We also have the specialist courses, like I mentioned before. If you are teaching online, it's a really, really good idea to have a niche or specialize in something. Business English is a huge market at the moment because of a lot of the companies going international. One particular student I had a few months ago was just wanted, like, he was in meetings with Americans and he was finding it really, really difficult to understand like some of the little sayings they have and all of that kind of thing. And we spent about 6 hours of classes just going through those small things. And they mightn't be anything to native speakers, but for somebody who's trying to break into an industry, it's really, really important. So I would definitely suggest a specialist course in business English. We also have teaching English online course, which is a really, really good advantage to have your specialist in teaching online if you are looking for work. And then for somebody with no experience, I would definitely recommend the virtual day course. I said myself, it was brilliant for me, for the confidence to create a class, to present it to people, to get feedback on that, and also just to see how Michelle did the class and controlled it, and how you're expected to be as a teacher online, and you know how she broke the class into breakout rooms and did all these kind of small things that I wouldn't have never have been really tech savvy, and I found that really, really helpful. So I would wholeheartedly recommend the virtual day course for your confidence, for a really, really good idea on what's expected of you, and also to get feedback. You know, if you've never done it before, you do a little bit of teaching, you have to do your lesson plan, you have to teach it, and it's really daunting, but you're doing it in a really safe environment with other students in the same position as yourself, and with Michelle or Kate, who will guide you and tell you, look, that was fantastic, but you need to improve on this, or you weren't very clear, or you could make it better. And I think that's all that's what we all need when we're starting something new, is a little bit of confidence and a reassurance that, okay, actually I did that and it's fine, you know, and I can do it. And it's also something that you can put on your CV when you are applying for work, is that you have this feedback, you have your certificate that you've done practice in front of somebody who has graded you on it, which is really, really beneficial. And then once you are qualified with ourselves, like Jess previously mentioned, she's our recruitment advisor. So we're here to support you and to help you find the work, you know. So we're giving you the qualification, whether it's a specialist course or the experience from the 10-hour virtual course. And then, you know, we can help you with your CV. If you have some questions about the video or anything like that, even if Jess is really busy, any one of us here would be more than happy to give you a little bit of advice and help you get started. So I think that's basically everything we can offer. If anyone has any questions about the courses, you can pop them in the chat now and I can go through them.
Yeah, I think we have a good few questions coming in there now.
So if you have the CELTA, the equivalent to 120 hours, no, so the equivalent to CELTA would be the 180 hours, because it's government regulated, it's a level 5. The 120 hours is an accredited course, so it's a little bit of a lower level qualification, but as I said, it's the minimum requirement to teach online, and it's more than sufficient for teaching online. Have a look here.
I'm not sure if you missed this question, Shauna, but just about the hiring process for contract work. You were saying about the video as well. Is there any other steps involved?
So basically the first thing would be to send your CV. Usually I found some of them through job sites like Indeed and those kind of things, but if you go directly to their website, they will have a link for you to follow. Some of them may request you to do send a video and do like an English test. I don't know if anyone has done our English level test on the website, similar to that, and they use those kind of things, the videos and the English level test, to filter out and to get kind of the cream of the crop, or the people that they want. And then usually after that, you'll be called to an interview. After your interview, you'll do some demo classes, like I mentioned previously, but the demo classes are usually once you have been accepted, and they're pretty sure that they're going to go with you. And that's basically it. You can get started then once.
Perfect. No, it sounds good. I just see a question there on freelance. So when making a profile to start freelance, is there specific things you should mention or not mention? It's a great question. I actually recommend to all TEFL teachers to at least once take a language lesson yourself. So if you've ever thought about like, oh, I want to learn a little bit of Spanish or a little bit of French, or try one lesson and you'll know straight away what you're looking for in a language teacher, and put that back on yourself as an English teacher. You know, so when it comes to a teacher, you know, I guess it depends on your niche, but what type of student you want to attract, you know, and make sure it comes across that you're really friendly, you're very patient, enthusiastic about teaching. I think these are, you know, really, really key things above all else. Obviously mention every qualification in terms of TEFL. You know, when it comes to work experience, I wouldn't mention irrelevant experience, such as, you know, this one time I was waitressing or something like that. You know, just really focus in on any experience you have working with people, with children, or, you know, even if you're teaching business English, what business background do you have as well? But that's a great question. Let me just keep scrolling.
Just I can see there is normally one-to-one teaching online. It depends on the company, and the maximum group that I have ever done would be 6. A lot of the kids, when you're working with kids, would be groups, because usually it's part of their school. So with adults, then it's normally one-to-one, because they're private lessons through the company. So that would be my personal experience, but it is possible to do both groups and one-to-one online.
Okay, I think there's a few more questions coming in there.
With the 120 hour, normally it's we say kind of 2 to 4 weeks, because it is a fast track course, and you do that in your own time at your own pace. So once you enroll, you have 6 months access in order to complete it, and you can do that 24/7. You complete 10 modules, do the quiz at the end, and then you have your certificate.
Yeah. Very good. So a question there from Keelan. Hi there, I'm a secondary school teacher. I'm looking to find some work for the summer months. Would you recommend contract or freelance? Yeah, I guess, you know, if you just want to try and think to yourself, narrow down what kind of students. So if you're a secondary school teacher, are you more comfortable with teenagers? What age group, etc. If you're looking at the summer months and you're thinking, okay, I have some holidays planned, or you know, for the summer and that, maybe you want to look for something a bit more flexible, such as freelance, so you're not so tied down. But I think either option, I don't know, Shauna, would you recommend one in particular? But I still think, you know, you wouldn't be contracted for certain months, would you? Would that be a limitation?
The only thing I would say about the contract is that you would have to give a minimum amount of hours. So usually it's like you'd have to do at least 10 hours a week. So if you're not willing to kind of sign up to that, or you don't really know what your plans are, then freelance might be better. The only thing is freelance might take a bit more time to build up the students.
Yeah.
if it is for a short period of time, would you have the sufficient amount of them?
Yeah, that's a good point. And how long does it normally take to complete the 120 hour? Is it just at your own flexibility? Yeah, I think we touched on that, did we, before, Shauna? But yeah, I think it's perfect for a fast track qualification to teach English online. You know, depending on how much time you have to commit to it and dedicate to it, it can take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. So if you're doing it intensively, can get it done pretty quick. But it just depends. But it is absolutely your own flexibility. So you can do it on any device. We also have an app as well, so you can do the course on the go. Just checking if I missed any questions. Feel free to shout out any questions as well, guys, if you have them.
There's one here. Would I recommend taking the 10-hour course? Yeah, as I said before, I personally found it really, really beneficial because I had no experience in teaching at all. So it really kind of eased me into it. It gave me the confidence I needed. So I would recommend it. Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to add in there, guys, some websites. So companies that hire non-native English speakers, those that hire with a degree and also without a degree. So I know that was some of the questions that came up. So just see there in the chat box, guys. So if you want to take note, so if you don't have a degree, there is options, as I said. And if English is not your first language, but you are a fluent speaker, there is a lot of options for you too.
There's just a question here about the 180 course. If you have the 120 hour and teaching experience in person, I don't think it's necessary to take another course because you have the minimum hours required to teach English as a foreign language. Most companies and schools and anything will look for your TEFL certificate, which you have an experience. So I think that you're already there. I wouldn't say that it's necessary to do the 180 hours level 5. Maybe you could look at doing a specialist course in teaching business English or the IELTS preparation that we spoke about to give you a little bit more of a niche rather than doing the whole course again.
I think we might have just skipped past a question there from Jill. Have you any information on what all schools like to work with? So I wouldn't have experience with this particular company, but what's a great idea if you are researching companies is to check out YouTube. So there's loads of people giving reviews of companies, what it was like to work for them. Also, they'll give you advice on how to do the demo lessons to apply for these companies too. Also, a great website is Glassdoor, so that will give you an idea what it's like to work for them as well. I'll just put in that website into the chat box there. Okay, make sure we didn't skip any questions.
Just here with the teaching companies that have lesson plans, I worked for Latin Hire. They have Open English and a few other companies. They have lesson plans. So basically you get your student, you log in and it will say, this is the class that you're teaching today. At the end of the class, you give your notes and that allows the next teacher to come in and teach it. Another company I worked for is Lingo for Me. I'll type it into the chat there. And they as well provided all the material for the class and the students as well. So that's this one here.
Perfect. Great. I think that's all the questions if we've covered them. Quick look. No, I think we've covered most of them there. I'm just going to pop in our email addresses there, guys. If you do have any questions after this webinar, feel free to contact us. You can give us a call or email us. As I said before, if you are finished your TEFL course, you can book a call with myself and we can run through, you know, how to search for a job, CV prep and everything in between. You can have a session with myself or pop me an email and I can send you on some information too. Perfect. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up, guys.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, please, Jackie. Yeah, absolutely.
So just approximately how much would you charge for conversational? Like where would you start?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, we have different currencies on this webinar, but let's just go with euro possibly. It does depend on the company, the website, and if the best thing to do is to run through the list of teachers that they have on their website, check what rates they are charging, and make sure that it is also competitive too. If you're talking about euros, you can start from maybe 10, 15. I think that might be similar now in dollars. But, really, I think it equates to how much lesson preparation you're willing to put in yourself and how many hours of work. But yeah, I would, if you don't feel too confident and you don't want to put too much lesson prep in, you can charge a bit lower at the start to attract more students, maybe 10, 15 to start.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jack. Yeah, no problem.
I actually also sent an email to you, Jessica, as well. I think it was because I had finished my course and I got on to Laura, and then she just sent on yours just for recruitment. So I don't know if you wanted to have a quick look at that and you can get back to me, but it's pretty much, it was a lot of what was discussed in today's webinar anyway.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think I got your email, possibly. I replied today, Jackie, I think. I
Oh,
hope so.
okay.
About Spain as well.
Yes, okay.
Got it.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, we can have a call though if you would like to chat a bit more.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, please.
Thanks so much, Jackie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys. So we're just going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for everyone turning up. It was an amazing webinar, an amazing turnout, and fantastic questions. Really, really great. As I said, I put in our email addresses there in the chat box, and feel free to call us as well if you do want more advice about TEFL training or getting into teaching English online. Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks very much, guys.
Bye now. Thank you.
Bye.